Okay, good morning everyone. Today we are going to start the second chapter of web frameworks, that is introduction to Node.js. In first chapter we have seen the basic concept regarding JavaScript. What is JavaScript? Basic syntaxes, variables, functions, then events, call back to that functions. Okay, DOM objects, how to include that script into HTML documents. What are the tags for that, for adding that script into HTML document, that is script tag we are going to use for adding or writing the script into HTML document. Then SRC elements or SRC attributes of that script tag used for including that .js file, JavaScript file. Instead of writing the script, we are going to add that script JavaScript file into HTML document. Okay, so this is all about JavaScript basics. Today we are going to see introductory part about Node.js. That is what is Node.js and what it is. So we are starting with the introduction. So what is Node.js? Okay, it is an open source. Node.js is an open source cross-platform or its runtime environment. It is for server-side and networking application. Node.js is an open source cross-platform runtime environment for server-side and networking application. It is written in JavaScript. Okay, Node.js is written in JavaScript, and it can be or it can run on multiple platforms like Linux, Mac, Windows, or FreeBSD. It is used in or it uses Google JavaScript V8 engine. Okay, Google's JavaScript V8 engine to execute code. It is used by Groupon, SAP, LinkedIn, Microsoft, Yahoo, or Walmart, PayPal. This uses that Node.js. Okay, so Node.js is an open source JavaScript tool. Node.js is an open source JavaScript tool built on Google Chrome's JavaScript engine, that is V8 engine. Okay, so that means Node.js is a framework or it is programming language. No, it's not a programming language or it is not a framework. Okay, it's used to build scalable network applications using an event-driven non-blocking IO model. It's used to build scalable network application. Node.js is used for to building scalable network applications using an event driven or non-blocking IO model, which makes it fast. Okay, by using that event driven approach or by using the non-blocking IO model system, it makes the fast executions of that file. Okay, so it allows developers to use a single language, that is JavaScript. Node.js allows users or developers to use a single language for both server side and for client side. Okay, so Node.js, it's not a programming language or it's not a framework. So then what it is? Here Node.js is a Java runtime environment. It is a runtime environment. Okay, so Java runtime environment is a software that is made to execute other softwares. Here, by using this JRE, we can execute the Node.js code. Okay, a JRE, that is Java runtime environment, often contains three of the following elements, which are there: a Java virtual machine. JRE contains a JVM, that is Java virtual machine, Java class loader, and Java class library. Okay, so what is class loader here? Class loader is used to load everything needed to execute a program. Class loader is used to load everything that is needed to execute program. What it is needed? The Java class library. Okay, so class library contains a set of reusable code. That Java class library contains a library or it is a set of reusable code that can be used to make a program. Class library used to make a program. And the Java virtual machine, what is Java virtual machine? It allows the computer to execute programs and applications written in Java. By using JVM, we are going to execute that programs or applications that are written in Java. Okay, so class loader is used to load everything needed to execute a program. Then Java class library contains a set of reusable code to write or to make a program. To make a programs, and the JVM allows the computer to execute programs. Okay, and applications that are written in Java. So Node.js contains all these elements, okay, that are included in Chrome's V8 engine, okay. So which was the engine used to build it. So we are going to build that Node.js code into Chrome's V8 engine, okay. That is runtime environment. So Node.js is a JavaScript runtime environment and it is used to execute JavaScript code outside of a browser, okay. So we are going to execute that Node.js, that is JavaScript code in V8 engine. Sorry. So next one is features of Node.js, okay. So there are 5 features of Node.js, that is asynchronous and event driven. Node.js is asynchronous and it is event driven. That is all API, all APIs, application programming interface. Okay, all APIs of Node.js library are asynchronous. Okay, all APIs of Node.js libraries are asynchronous. That is non-blocking. Okay, that means whenever sir whenever we are executing any applications or any JavaScript code in Node.js, then server never waits for an API to return any data. Okay, server moves to the next API after calling it. That means if we are going to execute any code or any server side script, then if API is not available, then or anything is not available, then that means it is not going to wait for to available that API. Okay, so it will move towards the next API, okay, instead of waiting. That is asynchronous or event driven. Whenever any events occur, it will move towards the next API call. Okay, the next one is very fast. It is fast, okay, because it's being built on Google Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine. So it is fast for that. For that is the reason that it is fast for execution. Okay. The next one is single threaded, but it is highly scalable. Single threaded. You know what is thread? Thread is a small amount of or small code. Okay. Single threaded, but highly scalable. Here, here Node.js uses a single threaded model. Okay, with event looping. Node.js uses a single threaded model with event looping. Here, event mechanisms help the server to respond in non-blocking way. Okay, and it makes the server highly scalable as opposed to traditional servers, which create limited threads to handle the request. Node.js uses a single threaded program, and the same program can provide services to much larger number of requests than traditional servers like Apache HTTP server. Here, instead of using multiple threads for single request, here Node.js uses single thread for single request. Okay, so that's why it is highly scalable. It will get because of this we will get the fastest result. Whenever user request for request Whenever user sends the request to web server for executing their code, there is a thread pool is there. Okay, there are several threads are there, so that every single request is assigned to every single thread. Okay, so that's why it is highly scalable. So next one is no buffering. That is Node.js application never buffer any data. Okay, there is no buffer here. So buffering is not taken place here. Okay, so that's why these applications simply output the data in chunks. Then last one is license. Node.js is released under the MIT license. This is the institute who is offering the license for Node.js. Okay, these are the features of Node.js. The next one is advantages of Node.js. Okay, Node.js is an open source framework under MIT license. Okay, that is MIT license is a free software license originating at the MIT Institute. Okay, it is an open source framework under the MIT license. Okay, next one is it uses JavaScript to build entire server side application. It uses JavaScript for the server side application or for client side application. Okay, then it is lightweight framework that includes bare minimum modules. That is means whenever we are bare means necessary modules. Okay, Then other modules can be included as per the need of an application. Whenever we are going to, or we want to add any applications into the current applications, or when we want to add the any external modules to the current applications, we can add in this. Okay, this is the advantage of Node.js. Then it is asynchronous by default, so it performs faster than any other frameworks. Okay, so this is the cross-platform framework or runtime environment that runs on Windows, Mac, or Linux environment. Okay, these are the advantages of Node.js. It is open source frameworks. Then it uses JavaScript to build entire server-side application. Then it is lightweight frameworks. Lightweight framework means we can add multiple modules or minimum modules, or we can add other modules as per our need. Okay, or as per the need of an application. It is asynchronous. Then this is the cross-platform framework. That means this Node.js can be run on multiple platforms like Windows, Mac, or Linux. These are the advantages of Node.js. The next one is traditional web server model. Traditional web server model. Here in the traditional web server model, each request is handled by a dedicated thread from the thread pool. Okay, every request is handled by a dedicated thread. If no thread is available in the thread pool at any point of time, then the request waits till the next available thread is, or till the next thread is available. Okay, if there is no thread available in the thread pool, then that request has to wait till the next thread is available. Then the dedicated thread executes a particular request and does not return thread pool until it completes the execution and returns a response. That means that thread is busy until the complete execution of that current request. Here you can see the diagram of traditional web server model. Here these are the requests to web server. Here you can see the thread pool. Multiple threads are available. Here you can see the thread 1 executes request 1, thread 2 executes request 2, thread 3 executes request 3. Okay, these are the dedicated thread that executes the request. This is the thread pool. Whenever user request web server, there is a thread pool is there, so that request is assigned to that thread which is available. If thread is not available in thread pool, then that request has to wait till the next thread is available for executing that script or that code. Okay, or to handle that request. This is the traditional web server model. In traditional way, that every request is assigned to a single thread. Okay, this is the traditional web server model. Then next one is Node.js process model. Okay, so Node.js processes users request differently when compared to a traditional web server model. Here in traditional web server model, we have seen that every request is assigned to a single thread. Okay, but in node in process model, that requests are handled differently. Okay, so it runs in a single process. Node.js runs in a single process, and the application code runs in a single thread, and thereby it needs less resources than other platforms. It runs in a single process and its application code runs in single thread. Okay, then all the user requests to your web application will be handled by a single thread, and all the IO work, input output work, or long running jobs is performed asynchronously for a particular request. So all the user requests in web application will be handled by a single thread. So this single thread does not have to wait for a request to complete and is free to handle the next request. So whenever next request is appear, it is not necessary to wait for that thread. It will be assigned to that next thread. Okay, so when asynchronous IO work completes, then it processes the request further and sends the response. Whenever that IO task is complete, that means that thread is free, or that process is get completed. Okay, so then it will complete that process and send the response to that request. Then an event loop. Here event loop is there. Event loop is constantly watching for the events to be raised for an asynchronous job and executing callback function when the job completes. Here event loop is there. Whenever any event is occur or any event is raised for an asynchronous job, then the and executing callback function, then that job is complete. Okay, Internally, Node.js uses the library, some libraries like libev for the event loop, which in turns in or which uses internal C++ thread pool to provide asynchronous IO. Here you can see the Node.js process model. Here you can see the Node.js server, or this is the internal C++ thread pool. Okay. Whenever user request for Node.js server, here you can see there is no thread pool here. Only single thread is there. Okay. So it will handle all the requested from the user. Here you can see the request one. So there is a single thread, that request is assigned to that thread. After some time it will start the asynchronous job. Here you can see the event loop. Okay, this is the event loop. After executing that, or here you can see that single thread is assigned to that request. After processing that request, that second request is appear. Okay, then that event loops continue with the first request. It will process the first request. Here you can see the thread is free to serve another request. Okay, after assigning or after starting the, here you can see that after getting the first request, that it will start the asynchronous job. Okay, that means that thread is free and that request is going to be processed. Okay, so here you can see the asynchronous jobs run on worker thread. That means it will be assigned to that internal C++ thread pool. That means that single thread is free, and that by event loop, that request is hand over to that internal thread. Okay, so that means here you can see that thread is free. Then the second request comes, and after that it will process that request and send the response to that request. Here you can see after completing that first request. Okay, here you can see that asynchronous job complete. After completing that internal process, it will comes to that event loop and sends the response back to that single thread. That is, it sends the response to that request. Okay, this is the Node.js process model. There is a difference between traditional web server model and Node.js process model. Here you can see there, in process model there is no thread pool is there, only single thread is there, or it uses the event loop and internal C++ thread pool. Okay, so Node.js process model increases the performance and scalability with few caveats. Okay, so it increases the scalability because there is only a single thread is there. So it uses a single thread and it uses the internal C++ thread pool, and it processes the request asynchronously. Okay, so Node.js is not fit for an application which performs CPU intensive operations like image processing. Okay, it is not suitable for this kind of application like image processing, or any heavy computational work, because it takes time to process a request, and thereby it blocks the single thread. If there are multiple requests or heavy applications is there, then that this uses Node.js process model uses a single thread. If we are going to use that process model for heavy applications, or like applications like image processing, it is not suitable because of that it uses a single thread. There is a heavy load on that server for processing that request or processing that images. Okay, okay, that's it for this lecture.